Do you have a horse or ag related business? On the Move has a truly global audience that reaches listeners from every corner of the horse world. We are currently looking for sponsors to run advertisements for on the show. If you'd like to get involved, you can reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, or email us at theonthemovepodcast@gmail.com. And now, here's the show. For everyone listening, welcome to another episode of On the Move. I'm your host, Joe McDonald, and joining me today is Sadie Fisher from Pennsylvania, but currently joining me from Missouri. She's out there doing a little prep to be a wild card competitor at the 2026 Road to the Horse competition. So thanks for joining us, Sadie.
Yes, you're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So, and I'm gonna knock on wood, but I like our odds better this time because this is our third go at this.
The service at our house just wouldn't, it just didn't work. It was just, yeah. So this is so much better
Yeah,
already. So
100%, 100%. So if anyone is listening along the way and they're like, "Man, they sound really familiar," it's like, well, we're probably gonna hit on some things we've already talked about twice. But
yeah,
that's no big deal because yeah, we had some really good conversations before, and honestly, like, especially with horse people and trainers, I feel like it's really easy to talk about stuff and kind of I mean, if we weren't comfortable like rehashing the same conversations over and over again, we probably wouldn't be horse trainers because that's kind of what we do for a living, right? It's just the same
yeah,
things over and over, a little bit better, a little bit better.
yes, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Sadie, can you go ahead and just give everyone a little bit of background about where you're from, and where you were raised, and kind of how you got started in the horse deal?
Sure. So I grew up in Pennsylvania in an Amish community. Um, and we just always had horses as long as I could remember. Of course, it was our mode of transportation, but my dad also enjoyed raising miniatures and ponies. He didn't have much to do with it. He's not a horseman in any shape or form, but um, we kids, there's 10 of us, um, took a lot of interest in it. And then I grew up playing with them, harnessing up a pony to go to school when I was in first grade. So we would drive a pony all my school years. And then in ninth grade, I would ride my horse to school. And yeah, they were kind of just our way of life, like our way to get around in town and stuff. And of course, we spent evenings running around on a little pony. That's probably the biggest teacher on balance was just running around on crazy little ponies bareback because we didn't take the time to throw saddles on. Yeah, then I became quite serious about horses and acknowledging that I have a passion and a dream of working with horses when I was 11 is kind of when it really started to get serious for me.
Wow, that I know I've said this before off camera, but it impresses me so much when people like you or other folks have that much direction at that age. You know, not that you had your whole life planned out or anything, but you knew it enough that it was something you wanted to pursue more than just being the fun thing you did after school, right?
Yes, yeah, I remember clearly when I was probably 11, I started being super passionate about riding my pony and wanting to do more with him. And then at 12, acknowledging that I want nothing more than to be able to train a horse someday. And that's as far as I ever thought I would get. Being in the community we were in, and I had no help. I had no way of learning other than, the old John Lyons Perfect Horse magazines. Um, and that I didn't even come across till I was like 13.
Mhm.
So, uh, there was nobody in my family, no cousins, no one in the community who really trained horses that I could learn from. And it was really, really unusual for an Amish girl to be training horses, especially at a young age or even any age. It was very unusual for an Amish girl to be a serious trainer. But I definitely recognized that when I was 12, like that is all I desired to do was to be able to get good enough to be able to maybe break out horses as a hobby, um, much less a job.
Mhm.
So it's been so good.
Yeah. Well, there's kind of two parts to that in my mind from an outside perspective. Um, one, so someone who doesn't grow up in or around an Amish community, they might not have a full understanding of kind of the access to information you might have or not have, right? Because you were talking about um, having those magazines, but not being able to draw knowledge from other folks in the community. Nowadays, if someone has access to the internet, they can find a million different ways to train a horse, right? Um, but from an outside perspective, the Amish don't have access to internet. Um, it's like, but also you can go to things like uh, a horse expo in Pennsylvania, and you'll see a lot of Amish people there now, right? Or you can go to a horse sale and you'll see a lot of Amish people, and they're doing things that are clearly kind of, I guess you'd say, like in the horsemanship vein, right? It's not like
Yeah.
kind of old school dealing with horses. It's like, oh no, someone's like really gotten a handle on that horse and
Yes.
got them broke and things like that. So, talk about like if someone is in an Amish community, and I'm sure it might be different growing up when you grew up versus maybe someone who's like 11 or 12 now. Talk about the access to information that you have, because I would think like if I saw a 12-year-old Amish girl and they even knew who John Lyons was, I would be shocked, right? At least like growing up when I grew up, like if I was also like 11 or 12-year-old kid at the time. Now, again, through the horse expos and different things like that, I realized the access is a lot different. But as a kid, I would have been surprised if an Amish kid knew who John Lyons was.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, for me, it's changed so much from then till now. But, um, with where I'm at in life as far as the access I have to the training world now. But I would say the biggest difference is, yes, a lot of things has changed over time, but it would depend on which community the person is in, on how strict they are. Because a lot of Amish homes do have internet, and now their kids would have access to it. But it would depends on how strict you are because there's also a lot you would not. So, yeah. So growing up, like I even have a lot of girls ask me, like they'll send me letters all the time asking me how to teach their ponies to lay down and stuff. There's such a hunger for it, and I have a passion for them. It's like I can't write a letter explaining how a 10-year-old should lay her pony down for the first time if she has no idea what she's looking at and she's got a spunky little pony that doesn't have the first handle of training. You know, that's not always the case, but um I'm wanting to write a book sometime for those girls. Something that I would have pored over when I was little. I would like to create for those girls now. The expo was huge for me and for a lot of other Amish girls. But now the other thing that has changed so much in the Amish community is, like you said, the people who do have the access and the trainers that we do have now are putting on training clinics, and they're well, not necessarily clinics, but training demos at horse sales. So all of a sudden, we have a bunch of Amish trainers putting on demos and showing what they're learning and all this great horsemanship. So a lot of the Amish that don't even have access to that world are learning from within the community now where I did not have it back then. That would be the biggest change. The whole overall horsemanship has changed like crazy in the Amish society, and that came from the price of horses going up so much. Now you have to know, like, if you want to sell horses for 20 grand, you got to know what you're doing. So
Mhm.
now they had speakers come in and seminars from people all over the place on nutrition and how to train your horse and what equipment to use and how to take care of your horse, and seminars. And it has been wonderful for the Amish community. So, yeah, I didn't think of that in the beginning, but the biggest difference would be that a lot of those girls are no longer stuck, and a lot of those little Amish kids are not as stuck as I would have been because they even say they wouldn't be allowed to go to the horse riding expo. They might be able to see it at horse sales or other like horse progress days, stuff like that,
Mhm.
because there's now Amish people teaching other Amish. And there's more girls like me putting on girls camps for the Amish girls. So and they're learning a ton through that. Like there's now Amish drill teams where there was never been before.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. And then they teach the next girl and they teach it just, you know,
Right. Well, once it's
escalates from
in the
there.
community, it can expand from there. It's almost
Yeah.
like getting in the door is the hardest part.
Yes, for sure. Getting it in the community was huge. And I didn't even realize how much I was doing that. Um, through girls' camps that I was hosting through the summer and passing all the knowledge that I had the opportunity of learning directly from, Ken McNabb, John and Josh Lyons, so many incredible trainers that I've come across in my life. And I was able to directly pass it on to girls. And then they go home and teach their friends. And now it's just really blew up in PA,
Mhm.
like, they're in Lancaster, PA. Uh,
Gotcha.
it's good.
So this is another question kind of along that same vein, and again, it's from an outsider perspective because part of your answer was it would depend on the community, right? So when someone defines themselves as Amish or having come from an Amish community, like what does that mean to you? Because again, if someone asked me what does it mean to be Amish, it's like, well, obviously they live a different lifestyle, but again, it's like I understand that different communities have different rules, and so there might be a group over here saying they're Amish, and there might be a group over here saying they're Amish, but the rules, not that it's like entirely based on rules that define you, but how the communities live might look very different based
Yes.
on location. So, like that term Amish, how would you define it as when someone says that's what they are?
So, even though he'd say as far as, like, how I would
Well,
describe it to somebody?
yeah, yeah. So I'm probably could do a better job articulating this, right? Like I'm from Virginia and I've mainly met Amish folks from Virginia, but I have met enough Amish folks that I understand that it is a different thing to be Amish from Virginia versus Amish from
Yes.
Pennsylvania versus Amish from Ohio,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so I guess I'm asking is it like a church thing where it was like there was Christianity and now there's Methodists, Lutherans, Catholics, all that stuff, and like the different communities have kind of like set up their own way, but everyone was Amish in the beginning? Or is it
Yes.
like what is the connection? But everyone all over the country, they say they're Amish, but they're maybe living different lifestyles and producing different communities. Does that make sense?
Yes. So, um, like in Ohio, you have a bunch of different Amish churches. Like they say they're Amish, but they say like the name of the church. It would be like you said, like saying you're a Christian, but saying the type of church you go to, right?
Sure. Yep.
But in PA, up till a year ago, we were all Amish, didn't matter how strict, how liberal.
Mhm.
So we were just all in the same Amish, like the headship, like or the bishops would still all meet at the same place and still had kind of the same agreements. Um, His would be a lot kinda like, you have your Catholic churches. Some of them are very lenient Catholics, and then the next you've got really strict Catholics. That makes sense?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
same with the Jews, and it's the same way with the Amish. It just kinda seems like some areas are just really strict, and then the next areas it just I don't know. I don't know how
Yeah.
it makes that, but yeah.
Yeah, sure, and that was kind of my understanding, but I did realize I had never taken the time to ask someone who truly came from that community, right? Because there is that obvious, um, differentiation, but you talk to any of them, they'll all tell you they're Amish, and
Yeah,
again, not being from that world, I just didn't know what the connection necessarily was.
what the connection would be. Well, the fact that most of our churches still kinda have the same guidelines, like,
Mhm,
have the same basic structure,
mhm,
and that our leadership and the churches still all get together in agreement and then give them to their churches. It kinda seems as long as the leadership is still in agreement from across PA, then we're still all considered Amish. But then a year ago when that all kinda shattered is when the leadership started seeing more truth and seeing the religion they were in and wanted to break out and be I'm not sure. Yeah.
yeah. Well, they wouldn't
It's
be the
hard to
first
explain it,
church to
but,
have that. Yeah, and we don't need to get into all of that. Again, I just wanted you might be one of the only people who, uh, comes from that world and could tell people who are on the outside your
yes,
perspective on it, and so
yes.
I just wanted to get that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
again.
I like it, like, I appreciate it. I appreciate where I came from. I
Mhm,
appreciate, the culture and the people and the family, and there's a lot of really good things about the community
mhm.
that, um, the good it's just good things, like the work ethic and the family and,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
there's
most of the Amish I've interacted with have been some of the most wholesome, hardworking people I've ever met. I wouldn't say I have, like, bad things to say, but again, I'm
that's
just not
great.
familiar with their day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that too depends a lot where you come from. There's, um, some really strict Amish communities where a lot of things are covered up by plain clothing, and
Mhm,
that's tough because there's a lot of immorality in some of those really strict cultures. And so that's some of the stuff that goes on the inside that you would never see from the outside. So there's a lot that I don't agree with, which is why I'm not Amish anymore.
mhm.
But there's a lot of things I definitely appreciate about where I came from.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, they are far from the first religious community to ever be dealing with the things they are dealing with
Oh,
right now,
absolutely.
right? Like,
Absolutely.
that's how, like, all of these things have been going for thousands of years now. Um, so one more question in all of that, because you can tell just how you explain it, it's really important for you to get that opportunity, uh out to the Amish girls in the community that are
Yeah.
there now, right? Get that education.
Yes.
So, can you talk about that a little bit? Because again, I imagine an 11, 12-year-old Amish girl, I think it's fair to say Amish as a whole, it's a conservative community compared to the rest of the world.
Yes.
Like, it's not maybe the horse training or dealing with horses, period, right? A lot of people could extrapolate that as a man's job and maybe like see where the community could potentially try to steer you other directions, right? Like maybe not say like, "Oh, you can't play with your pony," but when you're trying to pursue it in a more real light, right? Like you say,
Yes.
"I want to be a
Yes.
horse trainer." It's like, "Well, no, you're a girl, so you're going to be a homemaker or a baker or, like all these other things that would probably be a more traditional role for you." Did you feel any pushback on that because of your gender, or were people in your community fairly supportive of you wanting to chase this once you decided to chase it?
It was both. Both. What made me keep going is I always had the support of my family. My dad was never really thought like the traditional Amish. He's adventurous, loves going on hunts across America, loves doing trips. He just thinks outside the box a lot more when it comes to doing life than a lot of the traditional Amish people would. So then for me to go do something unusual like that, like what I'm referring to is going down to Josh Lyons' house and living there for 6 weeks and on the certification was like unheard of in my community. And that's when I got negative feedback quite a bit. Like, who would allow their 18-year-old daughter to go live with English people in Tennessee and be training horses? Like, that's not what we do.
Yeah.
And so there was definitely some pushback then, but I was quite strong willed and I knew who I was and where my passion was and what I wanted to do. There was no way that negative comments were going to keep me from it because I did have my dad and family's full support. And I think that's maybe what kind of all that mattered to me at that point because anybody who would be negative, I could kind of brush it off as, well, they simply don't understand. They have no idea what it's like. So it was a common thing to be different. I never could quite fit in their box, which I obviously was meant to. But I never could fit in with other girls in my church. I had fun with them. I had great friends. But then especially once I got married, I was the it was a lot of firsts. I was the first Amish person to go through Josh's certification program, the first Amish girl to have her own horse training business that I know of. Um, and then for sure the first Amish girl to be Roman riding, and then to start to go show, especially after I married, because I didn't start to go do entertaining shows till after I was married. So for a
Mhm.
married Amish woman to go do entertainment shows was like, you didn't do that. Um, so I actually didn't do it in PA, like almost never, especially not in front of Amish
Oh,
people. I
no
went to
kidding.
Ohio because the Ohio Amish, it's more accepted because I was PA Amish and I wasn't really one of them, but I would not have been accepted in my own town.
Mhm.
And in fact, when the opportunity arose for me to do it, they didn't allow me to because they didn't want it to be a show, which I
Yeah.
understood. But um, so I grew up being okay with being different. Um, never really fitting in the normal Amish lady box.
Mhm.
Um, and then like going to church as an Amish lady. I mean, the women would talk about gardening and kids. Like that
Yeah.
was the last thing. And at that time, I didn't really know. It was probably selfish on my part too, where I was more about like people speaking to me or, you know what I mean? Like talking to me about my interests instead of me just pouring into them.
Mhm.
And I didn't enjoy church ever growing up because I hated it. Um, I just didn't fit. And then, I mean, I had good times, especially in the church just before we left. I really loved the people and appreciated them, but I never felt like I fit. So once we walked away from that church and were in the like on the outside of the church, I never knew I could be this alive, this like living in abundance of exactly who I was meant and created to be and want to be. And yeah, it's absolutely glorious. I mean, to be able to just seek the Lord on who I should be and not just try to fit in that religious box or that structure.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I was used to, being different and just kind of so when opposition would arise, I didn't even really think of it. It did hurt sometimes, but then I just worked harder towards it. I just even more just pushed away from the people who were negative and just poured even more of my life into horses. Um,
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that kinda reminds me, and not to compare you to a prophet because 'cause you're a horse trainer, but there is that part of the Bible where Jesus goes back to Nazareth and he says it's like prophets aren't appreciated in their hometown, you know?
I think of that so often, and my spiritual gift is definitely prophetic. Like, I am a prophet through and through when it comes to spiritual gifting, and I feel like a prophet, um, is often not well received. And I often thought of the verse you just brought up. They're without honor in their and how, like, I need honor, but that's actually not accepted and you're in him down much. Um, but when you think of, like, Elijah going and telling, was it King Ahab that it's not gonna rain for 7 years? Well, he was probably the laughing stock of the town, right? He had to go run and hide. There's so many prophets in the Bible over and over again. When they shared the message that the Lord put on their heart, they weren't well received. So it is, uh, a prophet is a high calling. It's a hard calling, is what I was gonna say, because you have to be okay with being different. Um, because when the Lord puts something on your heart and you relay that message to that person, a lot of them will receive it, but there's gonna be a lot that won't believe you. And we'll
Mhm.
just think, "Mm, she's kind of, a Jesus freak."
Sure.
And, that's okay. I like it. Um, but yeah.
Well, that's awesome, and, that was something again, I was just in Ocala this past weekend, and it's funny, I feel like that's a unique place because everything about that place has to do with horses pretty much, right?
Yeah.
It's just so densely packed and it's horse town, and walking around with our friends that are down there doing other horse stuff. And we're blessed to have a lot of good friends in our community here that have to do with horses, but for the most part, it's like a normal town, and then there are horses that are in the town. Um, so a lot of times, if you are really big into the horse thing, and in particular training them, we talked about it this weekend. Like you're gonna most of those people grow up being kind of the weird kid a little bit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like I definitely grew up like that, especially for me. I mean, growing up in a place where it wasn't normal for like guys to be interested in horses that much, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very like where I'm from, it's a very female dominated industry. At least at the amateur level, like all the kids doing it are female. Um, so it you but if you want it bad enough, you just kinda go through that, and like you said, you just kinda you reach a point where if you get discouraged, you're either gonna let it get to you or you're gonna double down and work harder.
Yeah.
And it seems like all the people who have truly been successful or are still doing it, they get put in that corner and they just double down and work harder.
Yes. Yes, there's some days the only thing that makes you keep going is just sheer willpower. Like,
Mhm.
just, this is who I want to be, like, it's you kinda learn to make it happen. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit, and again, we've had this conversation before, but we'll mix it up. I know you got the opportunity at 18 years old to go down and do the certification program with Josh Lyons.
Yes.
You being the first Amish person to do it, how did Josh even get the idea that he should invite the 18-year-old Amish girl, right? Because that's maybe
Yeah.
not maybe not a savvy business decision for a lot of people, right? Is do I want to bring in what, could be the controversy and all that stuff?
Yeah. Yes. So he first invited me when I was 18. I kind of forgot. I didn't go till I was 20 then, 2 years later. But we got to
Gotcha.
know each other through going to Coke Forest Scenic Trail Rides in Clarion. We started going there when I was 15. And that's where I ever like, I knew of John Lyons, but I didn't know of Josh.
Mhm.
Um, so that's where I first met him. And I started going there when I was 15, but not till the 3rd summer that we were there. We started hanging out with, well, you know, and Mike Lyons and then his friend Max. So my friend and I were close to their age. We were 18 and I think they were 19. We started hanging out at the camp that week and we had a blast. They started inviting us to their campfires, and then that's kinda how we started hanging out with Josh and Jen and their boys. And then also through doing riding around camp, they saw us ride and whatever, and he saw that we can ride. We might not know much, but we could ride, and what we did was natural, and we did it because we had the feel for it and not because anybody really taught us. We just and then when I say we, I'm talking about my sister and I. So we just did things, I don't know, just by trying it on our ponies. And it just kind of came naturally for us. And um, I think as horse trainers, we can really appreciate somebody with a work ethic. We don't really care how bad of a rider they are, as long as they have a will to learn. They're fun to work with. But I think maybe that's what they saw in us. Like we had a lot of fun, even just playing, you know, table tennis and volleyball, and just even outside, we were super competitive, and they were too. So we just became really good friends. And then I think I don't even know how we got into this conversation. I didn't even know he does certification. I didn't know anything about any of that. But he started talking to me about, I should come down to the certification. And then he explained to me what it is and all that. And he offered that if I would stay there and work for him for a year, that he would allow me to do the accreditation, second one for free and all that stuff, which that was unrealistic for me at that time to go away for a year.
Mhm.
And then when I was 20, the opportunity just came up out of the blue. It wasn't even like he was telling me once again to come. I'm sure how it happened. I think I was maybe still in contact with Mike and Max at that time. And I really don't know what really made me call them and ask if they still have some spots available. Um, Other than it was just on my heart to do and I knew it was coming up. And if we would have talked about it, it would have probably been June prior. This was a fine um March. So it was just in my heart, like just to do. I just had to. I wanted to so bad. So I don't think I mean, we became good friends at camp, when he's seen us ever since we were 15. He enjoyed talking to my dad and we just became friends. And then after that is when he invited us down. So it's not like he just kind of saw a random Amish girl and, but yeah. So
Mhm.
they knew us well by then.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Um, was that your first extended amount of time away from your community?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, talk about that a little bit, because I mean, you had to have at least a little bit of culture shock, right? Like, I know you knew them, but you're all of a sudden living a completely different lifestyle, I would imagine.
Not necessarily. So we grew up, my dad had a cabin in Montana.
Okay.
So we were, as Amish kids, very exposed to your guys' world. We were constantly around English people, people outside of our community. So my dad had a business. He had a grocery business. So his right hand men were other businessmen, and they were not Amish. So we grew up with even, having a secretary in our house for a while, working out of the office in our house when I was like 4, 5, 6. So, and then we would babysit our kid. Um, so we really grew up being very well, used to going to motels on trips. We've been to
Mhm.
Washington, um, in like Canada. I mean, all these places with different hunts and been to Florida. We've traveled the train numerous times. So, and then he at that time had a big, like 40-foot RV. that he used to go travel. So then we had a driver that drove me down in that RV, and we parked it outside the one that's where it stayed. So we were used to having all the conveniences, like, of the RV. We didn't have it in our own house at home, like, we didn't have electricity.
Right.
I didn't even have a cell phone because I bought, like, a prepaid phone, or my dad did, for me to go there. So I had, like, a flip phone, cell phone to take with me on my trip.
Yeah.
So
Makes
that
sense.
was kind of a new thing for me, was to have my own flip phone, you know? But when it came to, like, staying in the RV when I was there, I was used to all the buttons. I mean, it was fancy. It was, I had bump outs and all the TVs and everything. So, no, it was actually not any different for me.
Oh, okay.
Um, you know, it was it was pretty normal, other than the fact that wherever I was down there, I was the only Amish girl, um, in that crowd. But growing up like that, you're kinda used to, we also went to the beach a lot when I was younger,
Mhm.
so we were used to kinda being different, you know,
Yeah.
wherever we went.
Yeah.
So, you
That
already think
makes
about it
sense.
after a while.
That makes sense. So you go down and do the certification, um, which again sounds like it was an incredible opportunity for
Yeah,
you. Um, but anyone who wants to get into this deal, uh, they quickly find out that I think education is the easy part of it. And then once you have some education going and applying it and, having a go in the real world with supporting yourself through
yes.
that education you just got, like that's a whole nother beast, right?
Yes, yes, the hardest part was coming home and not having the trainers there to ask the questions. But I felt so new, I had such a new level of knowledge, and it was incredible. But I was really terrified to come home and even start a business, because I was like, I still know so little compared to these guys. How am I qualified to start a business when there's guys that do this much? But Josh was really good for me there, because he's like, well, we can't help everybody. Like, we need, I mean, they're just a few that, they can't help. There's so many trainers on different levels, and we can all help people with where we're at. We all have people on our level or below our level that we can help. There might be a lot of people above our level, but then they can go to a trainer that's above our level too.
Mhm.
So you just really brought it out to me that there's room for all of us in the horse world, and that, you're going to be needed where you're at. And that was so true, because a lot of the knowledge, like the level of writing I was doing on his break courses there, I don't know if I necessarily used that much over the years in the community where I was at. Even though I was, working with riding horses and outside horses. They were show horses and backyard horses, and they weren't show horses, and they weren't,
Mhm.
competing.
Mhm.
So, for me to go learn a lot of high level stuff didn't really make sense, because I quickly learned I was advancing horses too much for their owner, and I had to
Mhm.
dull my training down. I had to make it far more simple, so people can just enjoy their horse and keep it simple. That was one of my funnest challenges as a trainer coming back and growing my business, was meeting people with where they're at. Not making the horse how I want it to be, but
Mhm.
watching them ride after the horse was safe enough for them to ride, and then training the horse according to their riding style, or what they're going to need on the horse, was
Mhm.
something that I got a big kick out of doing, because the people felt seen, they felt heard, and they felt cared for, and they really appreciated a trainer that tried their best to have the horse work for them. I
Mhm.
really kind of made it my mission that the horse is going to work for them, and not just
Yeah.
why I can ride it. It's not my problem, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually got asked a question the other day. Someone was interviewing me for a podcast that hasn't come out yet, but they were asking me about my uh, training philosophy, and I said, anymore, I try to imagine what it was like to be a horse trainer in like 1880, or in your maybe in an Amish community, right? Where like someone is using this thing uh like a car, basically. Like they
Yes.
need to get from point A to point B. And so my number one priority is to make this animal as user friendly as possible. And I'm still going to be fair to the animal and do all the right. Like I still have my opinions on horsemanship and what's fair to them. But I if I'm going to be a good horse trainer that helps my clientele and helps people, because that that is what you're doing if you're a horse trainer. Like, yes, we want to help the horses, but our job is to help the people because the
Yes.
people are important. I need to train that horse in a way to where they are as user friendly as possible. And what that means a lot of times is things are very simple, right? Like I squeeze my legs to go,
Yeah.
I pull the
Yep.
reins to stop. I It is very easy the farther you get into this to start to over engineer your horses, would be the term I'd use, right? Where it's like their rib cage needs to be like this and their pole needs to be here and their flexion needs to be like this and they need to be doing this and that. And don't get me wrong, it's super valuable to be able to understand all that stuff, especially if you're competing and doing things at a higher level.
Yes. Yeah.
But even those horses, they need to know the basics. They need to operate forward, back, left, and right, stop, speed up, slow down. They need to be able to do all that and have it not be like solving a freaking Rubik's cube to get that done. It needs to be straightforward.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of trainers, especially folks that are starting out, because that's where a lot of the volume and value is in terms of people that are going to be your clientele, especially in the beginning. Like if you can make horses convenient and easy for people to handle, they will tell other people about it and they will send you more horses. And also, those horses will live much happier lives because they're not some mystery to their owners.
Yes. Yes. I definitely find it huge to simplify everything. And one really profound thing I heard from somebody, I can't remember who, they said advanced horsemanship or having an advanced horse is simply taking the beginning steps and making those steps so good that it starts to look or become advanced. That makes sense. Like
100%.
having your simple buttons so good and so grounded that that is your advanced horse.
Mhm.
And that really simplified things for me. And I use that a lot for people. And they're like, oh, like, well, I need to be able, like, I kind of keep it to, control shoulders, hips, forward, back. And then after that, add your form where, your
Mhm.
softness. I am huge on responsive training first, where you push a button and it moves. But keeping my buttons super simple, but getting those buttons so ingrained in them that almost to where the point where you think it, they mimic your body. That's an advanced source. Because
Mhm.
if you have that shoulder control, that simple first one step over in your shoulder control, so good and so soft, you can start spins. And you can just start going so many places from it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm huge on keeping it simple because I remember so many times going to the orthotics, but being frustrated because people are talking about sliding stops. And it's like, yeah, I want to teach my horse that. It's so cool. I want to go watch. But then they're talking about, having softness in the rib cage and all this fancy stuff. And I was like, well, they're talking about doing reverse arch circles. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. Like, so it just complicated the whole thing for me where I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I won't be able to do sliding stuff. So I really love taking things and simplifying it to where, because I hope I never forget where I was and
Mhm.
become too advanced for that type of people. Like I said, we're all needed in different areas.
Mhm.
I have a heart for the people who need help. And what I mean by that is, there's people with show horses that get super picky about how their horse is trained. They want the sliding steps a certain way. They want the horses doing circles perfectly or, you know, all this fancy stuff. And they're almost hard to please, right?
Mhm.
Um, just some, it's almost harder to please those clients than it is for the backyard ones. You're just happy they're not getting bumped off. Now I
Yeah.
want much more than that. But I love when I can help people and their horses to the point where they're no longer scared of their horse. The horse is no longer scared of the owner and of the world. And you see a team starting to form, and you see confidence starting to build, even if it's as simple as going out on trail rides. That
Mhm.
that's the type of people that I really have passion for, is the ones who are going to get killed if something doesn't change. The ones
Mhm.
that actually really need the help, not just, "Well, I wanna become a better rider."
Mhm.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of the others because there's trainers that don't wanna deal with crap, they just wanna deal with the pretty horses, the pretty riders at a higher level of rider.
Mhm.
It's just where my heart's at, is to help the people who really need it. Um, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's super admirable, and again, that's another valuable thing, right? We talked about at 11 years old, the direction you had there. I think it's really valuable for someone as a horse trainer to have an identity like that, right? You are saying these
Yes.
are the people I care about, these are the people I want to help, because then, I hear you say that, and I know Sadie's not going to get lost in the weeds of, trying to do this over here and trying to do this over there. And you're gonna be on your own journey, but you always have a heading now, right? And And that's so valuable because that's the other thing that I think happens to a lot of, young trainers is there's so many options in the horse world
Yeah.
that they're like, "Well, what if I just do every option?" But doing every option is not doing any of the options. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I did kinda already hone in on, there was one time where I was doing, you know, some entertaining shows, and I was doing a little bit of demonstrations, a little bit of clinics, and then driving horses, riding horses, selling horses, buying horses, lessons, and I was on in a lot of no, I never did show, so I wasn't doing that on top of it, but it was just a lot of things, and I enjoyed every one of them, and I was doing girls' camps too, and, but yeah, there was times where I had to be like, "Alright, I don't wanna just be, like, half-assed with everything. I wanna be good at one thing." And it kinda didn't in here. And it wasn't so much so I tend to be, like, scatterbrained, thinking 100 things at one time. So it wasn't even so much that I had to change a lot of what I do physically, it was changing mentally. That what I am doing at the time that I'm focused on that 1,000%, and that my brain isn't running all over here in all the other areas. And being more intentional on wherever I'm at that time. And that has helped me a lot to stay zoned in, stay focused, and not just be a squirrel and running everywhere,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
definitely a big challenge of mine.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's another thing to circle back on what we talked about. When you're a person that has that level of passion, right? Where you're like the weird kid growing up and you're just gonna keep working harder and all that stuff.
Yes.
One of the side effects of that passion is you see something that does align with that passion, right? Again, all the possibilities of what you can do with horses, all the things you just listed, and they excite you. And so you're like, I like your analogy. You're the squirrel, and you're like, "Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting." So that's kind of a side effect of having all that passion, and then
Yeah.
you kinda have to have the mental discipline to
Yeah.
focus it on one thing or a couple things.
Yeah.
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 Cool. So, yeah, let's talk about, Y let's talk about post Josh Lyons. So, you get out into the world, how did the growing the business look? Because you got out there and you were doing expos and you were riding horses for people, um, just like, talk about kinda and I assume, obviously, you got married at some point in this time too, like, kinda take us down the trail from there.
Yeah. So after after becoming certified with Josh, definitely marked the beginning of my business when I was 20. I chose my business name down at his house. We made a joke. So they're called the Lions Legacy. And
Mhm.
then my fellow there at the time was like the French legacy because he was from France. He was French. And then my Mike was the hidden legacy. He's a stepbrother. And I
Yeah.
said, well, I'm just gonna be the Amish legacy. And we were just joking and having a blast and but no. So I came home, I made my yeah, so my name, came home and just started well, after that I also got listed on their website as one of their trainers. And I have not necessarily helped. It might have gotten me a couple things, but it's kind of word of mouth and people having like seeing the success of like a problem horse and then word of mouth. Always. It was I never advertised any more than Facebook. And at that time I didn't even have a phone. I didn't have Facebook. But what was huge then, a big part of and we talked about this before was when I started Roman writing, that image. So having like a fancy image to catch people's attention, and I didn't even try that. But I started having the image of, okay, after I got back from the certification, we moved a year after, and we moved an hour and a half, almost 2 hours away, and onto a horse facility, which was huge for me because I would have never been able to do what I did at the place where we lived at. So all of a sudden, I have this amazing 300-acre horse facility, and then
Mhm.
it was endless. Then I kinda got to meet the locals, and I all of a sudden realized that, oh my word, everybody out here has horses, which was different for us. In Lancaster, there was not a lot of English people in the area that had horses in their backyard. Well, we moved out to Perry County, and everybody has horses. So
Yeah.
in no time, I'm just full on busy with people's backyard horses. Or their trail horses or their fun show horses because there was, as far as I remember, no trainers in Perry County. So when it came to breaking out horses, all that stuff, I was the go-to. But then over that time, after we moved out there, I did get my first smartphone, and I did end up getting Facebook. And then I would post pictures of Roman riding, or it was my profile picture, which was like, well, if I like even for me now, if I see somebody, trick riding or whatever, it catches my eye and I look on their profile and I friend request them. I just think that helped a lot, just that image. And then it was the summer after we moved out is when I started dating my husband. And then a year later, we got married when I was 22, I think. And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, life kind of went on because he would go to work. And the only thing that slowed down a lot is I didn't work in the evenings anymore. Like I kind of quit going to the one in the evenings.
Yeah. It's funny you say that 'cause, I had that conversation a couple months ago with my wife. She went out of town for, like, a week visiting her sister or something, and I said, "It's like, before you got here." She's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, I look up I'm at the barn, and I look up, and it's 9 o'clock, and then I go home, I eat something, and I go to sleep, and I just wake up, and I go to the barn again."
Yeah.
I was like, "I didn't
Yes.
realize, like, you were kinda the reason I came home at 5, 6 o'clock every day."
Yeah. So that was my life from sunup to sundown. I remember when okay, this is not cool for my husband because he is very family motivated. Like he cares. His family was totally the opposite of mine. Mine was independent. We did life. Yeah, we loved each other, but we did life individually. His family really cared. Sat in the living room together, talked life, stuff like that. I wasn't used to that. So when we were shopping for couches before we got married, I as good as told him that I don't care what we get, I'm not gonna use them anyway. Because I would never sit in the living room in the evenings. I would
Yeah.
come home and I would, shower and chill on my bed till I was, till I would fall asleep. So that was hard for me to cut back on my hours, and the only thing I knew ever since I was 15, I spent every spare time in the barn. So it was hard for me, but it was good for me. So then I just started spending, you know, most of my daytime hours in the barn and then coming home and being home after dinner. Then, of course, I had my own house to clean and, I grew up making my own clothes. So I was used to sometimes taking time in the evenings to sew my own clothes, stuff like that. But I basically just cut back on lessons a lot. And then eventually, once our first kid was born, then I cut back to just training, 4 horses a day versus 6, 7, and doing lessons and doing all the chores. So I cut back to more like 3 or 4, and then once second one was born, um, well, my sister lived just down the road, so she started babysitting for me half a day. And then I could go to the barn for 4 or 5 hours from like 8 to 12 and just full on train horses, 2 or 3 horses. And that was kinda how I kept going at that time, once the kids, and not till we had a 3rd kid, then it was too much. My husband actually quit. It was cool for a season there. I was making more money than he was on a construction crew, and I was at the point of burning out, like, I just need to quit because I couldn't be a full-time worker and a mom and taking care of the house and all the stuff. So he's like, and I told him, "Do you wanna quit and come home and help me?" And then, he can be in the house with kids half a day, and I can be training, and then sometimes my sister has them, but we're both working in the barn. It was a really cool 2-year span there that he worked at home, and he started getting into PEMF therapy for horses, and he started going
Okay.
on the road with the driver, started treating horses all over the county, and got pretty good at it, but he was also really good at driving horses. He never really rode, but I would start driving horses, break them for the road till they were safe enough for him, and then he would finish them out, and he was better at finishing them than I was because he could drive a horse way more than I. So there was a 2-year time where we had a lot of fun working together, but you know what it's like trying to make money off of horses, and we didn't
Mhm.
own our own property. We used a lot of my dad's stuff, and we saw that it's draining our savings slowly but surely, you
Mm.
know, having fun and working our business together. But in the long run, it was not gonna pay. So after 2 years, he went back and got a full-time job. And we decided that the best way we're ever gonna make horse training work, if we ever get back into it full on again, is if he owns a business that can run its own and he can spend a
Mm.
lot of time at home, or
Mhm.
he has, a good job. And then when the kids are a little older, I do training as a hobby. And whatever income I make is extra. We never wanted to depend on just me again,
Mhm.
because that really kind of fell apart for us. Once I was pregnant with my third, then things kind of went downhill from there. And it was
Mhm.
a really rough 3 years after I kind of quit when my third and fourth were born. But it was a really good because it was definitely the best growing 2 years of our lives.
Yeah.
It's a lot of spiritual growth. But yeah, so in any horse business, you got to kind of find out, you have to find what you want. There was many days where we had to sit back and like, well, what do we want to do? You know, but I knew one day I was like trying to have a horse business. No, if we would have been reversed, it probably would work. If he would be the trainer. I feel it's
Mhm.
so different if the guy is the trainer and he can just go out and do this, 6 in the morning to 5 at night job. He can make a lot of good money like that.
Mhm.
But for me as a mom of 4 and a wife, and he helped a lot. He did a lot for me as far as in the house, but there's still a lot that, um, only a mom can do. He
Yeah.
still couldn't be me. So we just decided that, um, if I get back into it, my income will be the extra, and we won't ever buy a property and pay our bills off of me training horses. So, um, it's exciting from here forward. We don't know what the future looks like. We don't know what this year looks like. Right
Mhm.
now, our goal is Road to the Horse. After that, we are wide open. Um, and we're excited because we have a picture of what we want to do, and we think we can make it happen, and it's going to be good. And we think it's the Lord's calling on our life, and we are super excited. We just don't know how it's going to work out. You know.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. That that's great, and I'm so happy you touched on that. Again, I can't relate personally, obviously, but I do know that is a huge thing for any woman in the horse industry, right? Is how pregnancy and kids and motherhood change things. Even an amateur, right? Like I can't tell
Yes.
you how many people I get that are my clients that are women that are like, "Well, I was really into horses. I was doing this and doing that, and then I got married and we had a kid and I took some time off and now the kids are older and a little more self-sufficient and there's time in my schedule to get back into horses." And I want to do that, but it the context has changed, right? Because they took that time off or and again, I'm not saying it's good or bad because a lot of times people who are into horses, sometimes the most healthy thing they can do is have to grow in other areas of their lives and then the things with the horses get a lot better. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but that is just such a common theme with any woman that's involved in horses is how do you handle pregnancy and motherhood and all the things that come with that as far as like there's all this new responsibility and commitment in your life.
Mhm. Um, what's hard for me anyway is, if I would have an office job that I could do in my house, yes, you get disrupted, and yes, you still have the kids, and yes, it is harder, but it is doable because you're still in the house. You can do it at that time. The whole thing with the horses and bowling, it is just super hard for moms because unless you have a serious setup in your barn, and that's what made it nice then is when we were living there at the barn, we had a heated tack room. I had 2 of everything. I had a barn stroller and a stroller to pack to go away. I had 2 pack and plays. I had 2 bouncers. I had 2 sets of toys. And then in the arena, I had all the sand toys for the kids. And there was things for them to do. And then even in the winter, like my babies could, be in the pack and play in the heated tack room. And it was, it was hard, but it was doable. Now I'm not living at that place anymore. And nothing in the barn is mine. And my stuff isn't there anymore. I can still use the barn. My horses are having faster. Now everything got much, much harder because now I gotta pack the kids up in the car, take everything I'm gonna need for them, and hope they'll be fine for the hour that I'm trying to room and ride to get ready for shows. And now, they wanna ride, they wanna hop on the horses, they wanna play too. So it's been really tough this winter, even just getting ready for Road to the Horse. There's so many times where I'm like, why don't I just quit? Like, sometimes I just think of, "I'm just gonna quit. I'm gonna sell the horses, I'm gonna quit. I'm just done trying to make it work." And those are really hard days. Like, those are days where you seriously think about, "What do I wanna do with my life?" And then I think of my life without my horses and without having that goal. I know as hard as it is right now, but to not have them would send me into serious lack of purpose and depression to where I have no idea who I would be. I would completely lose my sense of purpose if I
Mm,
wouldn't have um that area of life to go and teach because I'm so passionate about it. It would be like cutting the life off of my life. So then I have to juggle which how hard do I want to work? And that has really increased for me in the last 2 years. Was it hard when I had 2 kids and I had the blind? Yes, but it was doable. Now it is just some days almost not doable. And it's out of sheer willpower that I keep on keeping on because right now I have word to the horse that I agreed to,
mhm,
and it's
mhm,
going to happen. And I can't just quit. And I notice the Lord's calling on my life right now. And that is the heaviest. Like when the Lord calls you to do something, I was just thinking about this the other day. Like I wanted to be fit. Well, he doesn't just make you fit, he gives you a gym, you know. And
mhm,
if you want to be spiritually strong, well, he's gonna give you trials. If you want to be emotionally stable, there's probably gonna come a lot of drama into your life because that's when you learn. You can't
mhm,
practice when it's not the training field isn't there, right? Um, but kind of forget where I was going there. Yeah, this year has been probably one of the hardest mentally and emotionally for me. Not so
mm,
much physically. I'm doing less physically in the last year than I ever have.
mhm,
I have a baby that's 11 months old. So a year ago, I just, had a kid. And after having 2 kids in 18 months apart, I was way out of shape. Like I knew I have a long ways to go to be actively training and stuff. And it was tough because I was always fit my whole life. All of a sudden my body wasn't even what it used to be. And I would go to do things that I used to was my everyday life and I couldn't. I didn't have the
mhm,
strength and it was just weird. And
mhm,
then to not have my barn and the horse training to go to every day, and I had to really, um, say, "Lord, what do you want in my life? I just commit everything to you because I no longer know who I am and where I'm going." And it was through the death of that old me and the old name, like my own platform, my own name, through handing that over to the Lord and through the death of all that, that something completely new is growing. It's like a new seed is starting to grow and bloom, and it's a whole new version of me that I never knew was there. And
mhm,
it's awesome. I love it. Like I love who I'm becoming. Wow, I'm not even really training horses. So what you said before is so true to be able to sit back and learn life and learn to be strong spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Being strong physically is actually probably one of the last things we need when it comes to training horses. Can we just be
yeah,
strong physically and just handle them around? Yes, we can. But that's not going to make us the best at this game. Um, so I feel like the training area that I was in the last 2 years is exactly what I need for what's coming. And now I can say, well, you know, I really appreciate what I've just gone through and what I still am kind of dealing with. Because in all reality, if you think about it, right now you're going out working horses every day. And it's what it's your life, right? All of a sudden, you get stripped of all of that. You get stripped of your physical ability. You don't have your facility anymore. You don't even have a place to bring horses in to train because of kids. You can't even go do clinics much, or you're so limited with how much you can go. You get stripped of all that, and then right to the horse contacts you. Like what? It's such an unbelievable journey. I'm like, I mean, some days I just stand and marvel because I'm like, what are you doing, Lord? This makes positively no sense, except for
mhm,
the one thing. Unless I am stripped of myself, how can he be glorified? Right? And my one prayer is that in all I do, I do it for him and I do it to glorify him. Well, the more he can be exposed is when we're less of ourselves. So it's so fun now to be coming out of the other end and seeing what had to happen in order for the Lord to be able to show himself in my life or to take over in my life. And so yeah, it's been a crazy. I mean, honestly, there's been days I spent crying all day because I was so freaking terrified of bird to the horse and I can't see my way through. And then the next days I am so in joy and abundance, because of if he's putting this before me, he will see me through it. And it's been such a God story all the way through that I'm excited to see what he's going to do, you know, in my life or for me or through me. So I'm gonna say I feel exactly like I'm a character in his movie. And it's a hard spot to be in if you're used to controlling your own life, you know,
Yeah,
'cause we grew up making things happen for ourselves,
yeah,
and it's really hard to step back and let things happen.
yeah. Well, see, that's such an awesome perspective, and I like if you do need to go out and find other income in the future, like you could be an inspirational speaker with the way you just riffed on that and how you felt about
Uh,
everything. Cause that just like pumps me up listening to you talk, honestly.
well, good, that actually really, that means a lot. You have no idea, for real, because that has been on my mind more and more and more lately, to be training horses, not just to teach horse training, but to be an inspirational speaker. Well, there is nothing that pumps me more right now than to speak life and the people he can't see their way through because of what I have just walked through in the last 2 years. I will tell them that the day that you give up, God might be asking you to give up everything you have, and it might feel like you're giving up your favorite teddy bear, but he's got this huge teddy bear, hiding it behind him, waiting till you hand over your little one so that he can give you his. And that's exactly what happened with Rage of the Horse. Literally a couple weeks after I cried and cried and cried because I gave my entire horse business. I said, Lord, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're asking, but I feel like you're asking me to hand all of everything that I have built up and dreamed of and made out of sheer willpower some days. You're really asking me to hand that over to you and to trust you with my platform? And I did. And literally a couple weeks later, he comes by and wait, all right, now I'm going to give you the biggest platform of your life.
Yeah.
And and he won't just do it for me. He'll do it for you. He'll do it for everybody else. That's how good he is. So living on, the goodness of our Father. It's just so good right now that I want to encourage people to, if you feel like the Lord is asking you to let go of an area of your life, then by all means, don't wait because what he's gonna hand you back is a thousand times better than what you build up yourself. Because he does do far more than what you even imagine of. But like I said before, all I ever dreamed of was to be able to train my own horse. That's all.
Mhm.
And to possibly be able to have enough of knowledge of horses to be able to do that as a hobby. But then to go from that to being a full-time business, to having my husband work for me, plus 3 trainers. We had 4 trainers with me, and then also my husband. There's 5 people working in our born Sundays. And then I had to, quit, but otherwise it would've just kept growing, and I think that's gonna come back. But yeah, to now not only that, to actually have one of the biggest to have a spot in one of the biggest arenas in the United States is just crazy. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's exciting. So I guess the last thing I wanted to visit with you about uh, was talk about Road to the Horse. What are you doing besides, trying to get in shape, right? God's already given you that gym. Uh, what are you trying to do to prepare for Road to the Horse? Because I think where we sit right now, we're a little under a month out now.
Yes. And that is terrifying, honestly.
I I
Uh,
bet.
right now, some days I don't want it to come, and the next days I just want it to be over with. But no, I wanna embrace everything about it fully. Um,
Mhm,
so right now my goals were, details, getting that booth set up. That was a whole story in itself. Um, little things like insurance for your booth, just there's so many little details. And then, definitely going to the gym and just being able to run, building up my lungs, building up my core strength, and all that. And then I've also been running riding more, since I'm going to perform there as well with my team of mares. So preparing them, body clipping, making sure I have everything, all the equipment I need for them. And then, making sure I have what I need for the Colt starting. And now this week, I'm super excited because I'm meeting Ken tomorrow morning, and we're going to be breaking out 5 Colts this week that are pretty wild, to the best of my knowledge. And we're going to be practicing. So I'm really excited that I get to practice, the times, the Colt, the round pen with Ken, with my pen wrangler, and to be trying to be doing a replica of what we're competing in.
mhm,
And we're gonna do that tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday. So we're gonna be working as many horses as we can and just so I feel like that's the one way that is gonna be huge for me to prepare in as far as the horses just prior to this.
mhm.
Otherwise, learning a lot of being confident in who you are, um, in being you, not trying to just go and be like everyone else, not going and trying to be professional and trying to look like you think you should look, but rather just going like telling myself that go and be the best you that you can be, um, has been something that I really had to grow and wrap my brain around. Because automatically you want to fit in. You want to be like you want your booth to look like their booths are gonna look like and stuff like that. And there's
Mhm,
been so many things happening lately where um God was just showing me, no, you just go and you be you. And
mhm.
um, um I'm really, really appreciating that right now because it is
Yeah,
really boosting my confidence of, there's no pressure if you don't have to be like anybody else.
yeah. Well, 100%. That's such a good message because, man, when you go into something like this, you're like literally the point is you being compared against your peers, right? The competition
Yes,
aspect of it.
yes.
Um, but within that, the thing people are attracted to more than anything now, I think, is authenticity. Like I think it's one of the reason this podcast thrives because I don't have time to produce a podcast that's super well polished. I don't like plan these interviews out ahead. I just call up people I want to talk to and then I talk to them and
Yeah.
you end up getting to have really real conversations. So, you as Sadie Fisher, the reason people want to hear what you have to say is because you're just genuinely Sadie Fisher. You're not Sadie trying to be this person over here or trying to be on this person's level over here. And that it can be really, really hard not to get swept up in that because you care about what you're doing and you want to be professional and you want to do a good job. And differentiating the difference between doing a good job and being professional versus being something you're not, that can be really hard, I think.
Yeah, and I have done that. I was like, I never want to go back. The pressure of trying to be like everybody else, it's really hard. The day that you realize, wait, like people don't even want me to be like other people. They want me to be me. And then me just embracing who I am and not thinking I have to have it all together like it looks like other people do. um, is so freeing because I get to be just me and, there's no pressure. But I have done that. I have multiple times made the mistake of thinking I have to be like certain people, and it doesn't work. You just fall apart. So I really don't want to go back to being that mind frame again of thinking I have to be like other people. Because, like you said, I think in the time of life we're in right now, people need to see raw and real. All
Mhm.
this fake, um, even Chat GBT is such a fake version of people. Sometimes some of it's fun, some of it's funny. You know what I mean? But all these filters we have, and people start to live in a filter because of on social media. There's so many platforms where people are so busy being a fake person that it's discouraging to people who don't have it all together at the time
Mhm.
because now it makes them think even less of themselves. And we need people who have platforms to be real and to be authentic because that gives more inspiration and hope to the everyday person than for the professional to look completely polished and like their life is perfect.
Mhm.
They are much more out of reach for the everyday person that might be struggling in life because that person is going to be like, well, I can't ever be that perfect.
Mhm.
But then the half the people that you think a lot of just say about a blooper they did or just a mistake they made or something they did wrong.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we can relate to them because in reality, that's all of us. None of us are ever perfect, and we get swept up in, man, they're perfect. They have their life together, and I don't. And it's a lie. It's not true.
Mhm.
So definitely, we need people to be raw, authentic. We can be more helpful that way than we can trying to be perfect.
Yeah. 100%. I I I don't think there's anything we could end this on better than that message right there. So, uh, Sadie, to wrap it up, if people want to look you up, or give you a follow before the competition, you want to just plug your Facebook page and all of that, your business,
Yeah.
before, or any expos or anything you got coming up, if people can see you other places besides Road to the Horse.
Yes, I have, I'm going to be at the Horseback Expo in Harrisburg, which is, I think, this week. It would be 2 weeks from now. So first March 5th to the 8th or something. I'll be doing the training demo there Thursday morning and Saturday morning, as well as doing being part of the musical entertainment from, I think it's 2 o'clock on Thursday, 2 o'clock on Friday, and like 5 o'clock on Saturday. And that's where I'll take my team and I'll rim and ride into kind of a short version of my act. And that will be at the Pennsylvania Harrisburg Farm Show Complex. Um, and then, yeah, otherwise, they can always reach me on, my Facebook name is Sadie Unbridled Equine. So people can follow me there or message me there and, yeah, or just come to the doors. I
Heck yeah.
can't wait to meet people there. I've always wanted to go to the event and never even got to go to Road to the Horse. So this is pretty crazy. Like, it's really exciting. And I'm just thrilled to be going to a place where we're there because we all love horses. And that I'm excited for to go meet people and stuff. So yeah, after that, I don't really have plans. I am open to clinics quite a bit. Being that I don't have a facility right now where I can bring horses into work for people. But I am gonna open some Saturdays a month or even 2, 3 days out of a week, or if somebody has an arena that they wanna host and we can do, pole starting clinics or trick training clinics or problem horse or whatever. Um, I would be thrilled to travel some distance, maybe not just a really far at this time of my life, but to go to clinics if somebody wants to host. Yeah, we'll see if any opportunities come up with the right to the horse and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it'll all work out exactly how it's supposed to.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Sadie, thanks again for coming on the show. For everyone listening, uh, I got to keep remembering to do this, but don't forget to like and follow and subscribe to On the Move on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. That makes a big difference. Follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Yeah, you got to remember to follow us because that's how we grow the audience, grow the podcast, and keep getting cool guests like Sadie on here. So, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.